The first topic that I want to talk about is phasing. So let me open a new project. How do we can specify the phases in our model, and also what is the purpose of phasing, and then the tips and techniques. Note that phasing is used for categorizing your project actually, or in other words, to divide your project into some parts. And it is also used in the renovation process. For renovating a building and then reconstructing it. And also for the elements or the geometries which are going to be constructed from scratch. And you can find the setting dialog in Manage tab, then in Phases, as you can see. By this way, as you can see, but in Revit by default we got two phases, as you can see. Firstly, existing and then new construction. Existing refers to the existing elements, context and the topography, and new construction is the proposed elements and topography. For instance, in reconstructing a building, existing phase shows the existing elements, context and the topography which has been modeled into project before, but the elements and the geometries that you add during the process of reconstructing will be associated to new construction. However, we got renovation as well. These two are the simple form of phases in Revit. While during the renovation process, we remove some of the existing elements and then add some new elements. So we can find the phasing dialog in Manage tab and then in Phasing. Well done. Watch this part carefully please, since I'm going to tell you some key points. And at this moment, I disregard Phases panel by this way. Note that here, as you can see, I haven't selected anything. None of the elements are selected. But at the left side of the screen, we got phasing in properties, as you can see. Actually, specifying phasing in some of the projects in some of the countries does matter. For example, phasing in Canada is frequently used, while it may be not even used in some other countries. Actually, phasing specifies or defines the phase of construction. For example, right now, as you can see, the specified phase is new construction, since there is no existing element. And also in phase filter, show all is defined. So in phasing group, we got phase filter and phase. But later I will talk about the phase filters as well by this way. And note that the specified values in phasing are specified for the general project. But if I select a wall, then I place a wall by this way, by sketching a line like this way. Here, if I select the wall, as you can see, please give me your attention. As you can see, in phasing, we got phase created, which is new construction, which means that this wall has been created in the phase of new construction. And also, we got phase demolished, which is not specified yet. And as you know, the elements are not going to be demolished necessarily, because we need the currently selected elements, so we can specify none for phase demolished. Very well, let's review the told items again. While no object is selected, so that we can specify the phase of the project. That right now, as you can see, is new construction. And also displaying which elements, which is show all. Following that, the phases that the elements has been created in are specified. As you can see, this wall is created in the phase of new construction, and also you're allowed to specify the phase demolished, that the most of the elements are not going to be demolished. Very well. In the continuation, to give you a deeper understanding about phasing, I'm gonna divide the project to some phases. For example, I can consider the seasons as the different phases of the project, or in other words, seasonal phasing. For example, spring, summer, fall and winter phases. You agree? So let's add some phases. However, we got different types of phasing in Revit. For example, phase 1 and phase 2. And then you can associate the underground constructions to the phase 1. And then associate the rest of the building, the construction of the rest of the building to the phase 2. But ignore them for now, since I'm gonna insert some phases by using before and after, as you can see. I define the phases by this way, like this. For example, I insert these 4 phases. But as you can see, if you mistakenly create a phase, there is no delete function in phasing dialog. but you can use combine with function to delete the created phases. For example, I don't need existing and new construction phases, so I select them, then I click on combine with previous. For example, again, I select new construction to combine it with phase 3, for example. Note that you should click on the number of the phases. So we can use combine with function if you want to delete your phases. And currently we got 4 phases. Following that, I'm gonna rename the phases. For example, spring, then summer, after that fall for number 3, and winter for the phase number 4, by this way. So during the process of seasonal phasing, I have created 4 phases and then I renamed them, which means that a project has been divided into 4 phases, which covers the 4 seasons. Anyway, I click on OK. Then, according to the given information, here I can specify the currently phase. I mean, you can specify the phase of the building or the project at this moment of the modeling process, for example, winter. Or if the project is going to be started in summer, you can specify summer for the currently phase. But note that I have chosen this model of phasing just because of the order of the phases, because the primary specified phase has got the priority for starting the modeling process, while we got different types of phasings. Suppose that the building modeling is going to be started from spring, that in this phase we're gonna have some precast walls. So here in architecture tab, to begin the process of modeling, so I'm gonna consider these walls as existing elements while sketching the walls, for example, by this way. So I assume these walls as the existing walls by this way. Let me reduce the size of the walls by this way, so that we can work on it better by this way. Well done. Let me check the position of the wall. I select it and then I move it. I place it at the base point. Very well. Firstly, I select the walls by this way, and then, as you can see in phasing, the phase created is the spring. Since we are at the beginning of the modeling process, and the modeling process is going to be started from spring, so the specified phase is spring. So these are the existing walls in the phase of spring. I add some more walls by this way. Well done. So this is the currently phase, but in the continuation, I'm gonna select some of the walls which are going to be renovated or going to be demolished later. For example, these 3 walls. I want to associate these 3 walls to phase demolish. So firstly, I select them and then I specify the phase in which the elements are going to be demolished. So I open the drop-down list and I specify spring. Now check out the walls, or even you can select the walls again and then modify the phase demolished, like summer for example. So we got many options, but I specify the season of spring for the phase demolished. I open the drop down list and I specify spring, I'm sorry. Well done. Let's go for the next phase. The next phase, as you can see, is summer. So here if I change or modify the phase to summer, as you can see, the demolished phases in the last phase or in the spring phase are not viewed anymore, because they have been renovated in the last phase. So they are no longer visible, because they do not exist, and as a result, the walls which have been created in the phase of spring are specified as the existing walls in the summer phase, since they have been constructed in the last phase or previous phase. But if I make some changes in the current phase, which is summer phase, by this way, so that these two walls which have been added to the model just now are going to be considered as the new construction elements, while others are the existing elements, since they have been created or constructed in the previous season or the previous phase. So in the current phase or summer phase, they are called as the existing elements. While if I open the phase of spring, you see that these walls are considered as the new constructed elements, since they have been modeled in the first season or the first phase. So our selected phase does matter, and the firstly modeled walls are considered as the new constructed elements in the first phase, while in the second or the summer phase they are considered as the existing elements, since they have been modeled in the previous phase. These three walls are the new constructed phase in the second phase. But right now, if I modify the phase, I mean go to next phase, what do you think about the specified phase of each of these walls in the third phase or fall phase? Exactly, they are considered as the existing elements. If your answer was right, you have understood the instructions. In the continuation, I'm gonna add some more elements in the third phase or fall phase by this way, which are going to be considered as the new constructed elements in the fall phase, while if I move to the next phase or winter phase, which is the last phase, in the specified phase for the currently elements will be existing elements, since they haven't been modeled in this phase. Let's have a review again. As you know, we got two phases by default, existing elements and the new constructed elements. The elements which are being modeled in the currently phase are called as new construction, while the existing elements are the elements which have been modeled in the previous phases, but what are temporary and the demolished phases. However, I gave you a short explanation about demolished, but I'm gonna tell you a precise explanation about these phases. The demolished phase is specified for the elements which have been renovated or demolished in their succeeding phases. I mean, they are going to be demolished in the next phases. And the temporary phase is specified to the elements which are constructed and demolished at the same phase. Let's have a review again. Demolished elements are the elements which are going to be demolished in their succeeding phases, and the elements which are going to be demolished similarly at the phase that they have been created in are called as temporary elements. So right now, these three walls which have been demolished, I mean they are constructed in the phase of spring and also they are demolished in the spring phase too, are called as the temporary elements. But why are they called as temporary elements? Because we had both processes of deconstruction and the renovation. So the walls had a temporary function or purpose at this project or at this phase. But if I select these walls again and then modify the phase that they are going to be demolished, for example summer, then they will be called as the demolished elements, since they are going to be renovated in the next phase. If I change the phase to summer, check this out. As you can see, the selected walls or the demolished walls are being viewed with dotted lines, since they do no longer exist. The others do exist, which are called as new constructed elements, and also the main walls, which are the existing elements, and the dotted lines are the demolished elements, that they do not exist. Very well, I will elaborate it more, but here you may be wondering about the temporary elements. So I want to exemplify some temporary elements in the process, the modeling process of residential buildings. I mean, what are the temporary elements in the construction process of modeling a residential building? So what do you think? I just want you to think about it. For example, roof shoring. However, this is only an object, but I can provide you some better examples, like the watchguard place, which is a small building, or for example the custodianship room, which are some small buildings created in a specific place during the process of modeling or the process of constructing, and then they will be demolished. So the custodianship room is the best example for the temporary elements in the process of construction. But what do you think about the demolished elements? Actually, yes, renovation. and the other phases of new construction and existing are clear. So while identifying the phase of the elements during the process of modeling, we got 4 choices, which are existing, new construction, demolished, and temporary, which have been elaborated in this session. Let me exemplify one more case to convey the message better. For example, currently we are working on a project in Italy. Firstly, let me show you the given plan in AutoCAD, and then I'm gonna tell you what is the purpose of phasing here. And at this moment, I'm gonna show you the schematic implementation of this project in order to have a deeper understanding about phasing. And then we will talk about the filters. Anyway, check this out. Actually, last week I was given the plan of this project, and those who know Italian language can understand the texts. Anyway, the main topic here is that actually this plan is the currently phase, as you can see. I mean, we got a building at this shape by this way, as you can see, and then here the red lines shows that this building is going to be kept during the process, while the lines which are displayed in green are going to be demolished. After that, in the next phase, we will have some new constructed elements. No changes have been executed on the red lines, but the green lines are demolished, and then another elements are created instead. And let me show you the plan. Check this out, which shows the currently phase that only the left side of the building is going to be kept during the construction. The rest of them are called as temporary elements. But please don't ask me why, because I don't know. However, it is very complex to explain it, but I don't want to move far from the main topic, which is phasing. And right now, as you can see, a building which is preserved during the process of construction. Some other elements have been added in the next phases to the existing elements. Anyway, the employer has asked me to display the currently phase of the model and also the phase of the constructed building. I mean, all of the actions which are going to be executed on the project are taken into consideration, so we should display the process of changing. So let's try it in an actual project so that you will understand the main purpose of the phasing in an actual project. But I don't want to waste my time on the details like doors and windows, but I show you the main items and create the phases on an actual project. Following that, you can comprehend the lesson in depth. Firstly, I open a new project here by this way. Note that normally in the project we use 2 phases of existing and new construction, but in a renovation project, here if I open the phasing dialog, as you can see, you got 2 phases by default. There you can find these 2 phases, and we try not to complicate the phasing process more than this. Anyway, right now I choose walls. I start sketching the wall, which is going to be kept or preserved during the construction process. Then I select it to specify the phase created, existing. So I specify existing for this wall. Well done. So before going for the rest of the objects, let me check the plan again in AutoCAD. Right now I have modeled the left side of the plan. In the continuation, I'm gonna sketch the right side of the plan, or actually model it schematically, since we don't want to waste time on the details. Let me place the walls aligned to the existing walls. By this way, I sketch the main walls like this. Let's take a look on the plan. Well done. I extend this wall. Then I add some more details by this way. Suppose that like this. Very well. Let me trim some of the parts by this way. Well done. And as you know, the left side is going to be preserved. But for now, I select all of the walls to specify the phase created as existing. But what would happen when I want to launch the process of the construction of our building? As you know, some of the walls will be demolished. These walls that I'm selecting them These walls are going to be demolished. At the time, I want to add my new constructed elements. By this way, new construction. Check this out, they are displayed in dotted lines, and currently we are at the phase of new construction. Well done. Look at here, please. Right now the current phase is new construction. Here I can check the existing elements, so I select existing. Then again I can change it to the new construction phase to check the condition at this phase. Check this out, and as you can see, the dotted line do not exist. Well done. And right now I want to make some changes to, for example, design the new model. By this way, in the phase of new construction, in this manner, I model my new design in this phase. As you can see, the created phase is new construction. It means that they have been created at this phase, at the current phase, and they are not going to be demolished. The only way to display the demolished elements and also the elements which have been constructed newly is this way. But following this actual example, I want to open AutoCAD again, and then we're going to specify the demolished phase, and then we will add the new constructed elements. But sometimes you don't want to display the demolished elements in dotted lines in your view, for example, since it is not necessary to display the demolished elements. At this condition, we can use phase filter. In phase filter, we can control how certain phases are displayed in a view. So by using phase filter, we can specify a certain phase, for example, no construction, existing or demolished, whatever, and then only that specified phase will be displayed in the view. Or for example, currently as we are in the phase of new construction, which one of the phases do we want to display? As you can see, the phase filter is show all, which means that all of the phases are being showed here. The phases existing, new construction, and the demolished phases, while we can specify to hide the demolished elements. Or for example, we can specify to only show the new constructed elements. So this is the main purpose of phase filter here, that you can customize them yourself. However, here some of the items may not be used. But all in all, you can customize the elements that you want to display them in your view. Here as you can see, we got three types of phases: demolished, existing elements, and the new construction, which are the elements which are sketched in highlighted lines, and all of them are showed in this view. For example, show complete. Show complete displays the currently completed elements or the whole existing model, or all which has been created or constructed, so that the demolished elements are not showed anymore. And this filter is especially used when you want to share a plan of your project to your employer, actually with your employer, which is show complete. But sometimes you may want to use show all filter, in which the three phases are being displayed. As you can see, the existing, new constructed, and the demolished elements by this way. However, there are some other filters like show demolished and new constructed. Right now the existing elements are not being displayed, for example. In show demo plus new construction, this filter disregards the existing elements. You can use this filter when you want to check the phases of your elements, or only show new constructed elements. This filter disregards the demolished and also the existing elements, and only the new constructed elements are displayed. The next filter is show previous and demolished elements. This which shows the previous stage elements and also the demolished elements. And this filter disregards the currently phase but considers the previous stage or phase and the demolished. By this way, you can get access to the existing elements, or in other words, it displays the previous phase in show previous plus demolished elements. And the next filter is show previous and new constructed elements. in which again the previous stage or phase is being displayed in the new construction. But you may wonder what is the differences between this filter and show complete, since the displayed elements are the same. Yes, you're right, but we got only 2 phases. So if I open the another view in which we got 4 phases or the 4 seasons, or for example in fall or winter, and then I make some changes, I sketch another wall by this way. Check this out. Here we got 4 different phases. Right now, if I specify show complete for phase filter, all of the constructed elements will be displayed. But if I change it to show previous and the new constructed elements, then according to the existing elements or to the model, for example this tree were constructed in summer, I modify it to for example in spring, and if I demolish these walls, they won't be displayed in show complete phase or filter actually. Or for example show previous phase, it moves back to the previous phase and the elements. So the phase filter, it is based on your created phase or phases. That as you did see, to put the lesson into a nutshell, I exemplify some actual projects in which the main purpose of phasing are being conveyed practically. And these are the filters as you can see. Well done. In the continuation, I'm gonna tell you some other points. Then we will work on some questions that you may ask. For example, here if I specify the phase filter on show all, here as you can see the existing elements are displayed in a transparent lines. So as you can see they are faded, and the demolished elements are showed in dotted lines, and new constructed elements are showed highlighted. But how do we can customize the displayment of these elements or these phases actually? So for example, to display them in different colors, in red lines, green lines or yellow lines. So to customize the placement of your phases, in Manage tab, I open phases. In the first tab or project phases, you can control your phases. Then in phase filter, the filters are defined as you can see, and I think they are comprehensive enough to meet your needs, so it is not necessary to modify them. And the next tab, which is graphic overrides. In the tab of graphic override, we can specify the projection lines and patterns or cut patterns of each of the phase statuses. For example, in existing, you can specify the pattern and the color. For example, I specify orange. Well done. And then for the demolished phase status, I specify red, for example, as the color. In dotted lines, you can also associate the materials as you can see, and then for the new constructed elements, and also for the temporary phase status in dotted lines in the specified color. Well done. And right now if let me check the phasing filters again, since right now the specified filter is show all. New is by category, the existing is overridden, and the rest of them are overridden as well. So let me modify the cut lines and cut patterns, since I have only modified the part of projection and the cut line hasn't been specified yet. So let me specify these by this way, and let me modify the color of the projection to for example green. Well done. And then the cut line color, I specify green. Well done, by this way. Right now check this out. The colors of the different phase statuses are changed. The new construction elements are displayed in black, and then the existing elements are shown in green, and the demolished are viewed in red. Is it right? Very well, let's have a review again. We are going to start a project, and we are given some plans in AutoCAD. Here we are dealing with a reconstruction project. Here is the currently status and the new construction phase or status. So I open phases in Manage tab, and then I define 2 phases. Although we can add more phases, for example 3 phases or 4 phases as you know, but the less is better. So at first we should define the phases. Then after placing or sketching the elements, we should specify their phases they have been created in. for example existing. Then I selected some of the elements by this way are going to be demolished in the process of reconstruction, or while the new elements are going to be new constructed, the selected elements are going to be demolished. Then we sketch our elements or the new constructed elements. As you can see, the specified phase is new construction, while others are existing elements, as you can see. Anyway, after specifying the phases of all of the elements, then we can specify the phase filter, that in which we specify several elements that are going to be displayed in a certain view. That you can control the displayment of the elements in phase filter, show complete, show demolished, and the new constructed elements, as you can see by this way, or only the showing no constructed elements and stuff like that. But suppose that your employer has asked for the sheets, for shopping sheets, and then display this whole plan on the sheet. The current plan, that in which the existing and the new constructed and also the demolished elements are showed, and another sheet in which the final modeling is showed, and another sheet in which the plan of the current status of the project is defined in. So we should provide 3 sheets. Firstly, one for showing the completed elements, and the next one showing the new constructed elements and the demolished elements, and also a sheet from the final phase of the construction. For example, I open 3D view, then I duplicate it, duplicate view by this way, right click, I make 3 duplicates, and then I rename them by this way. For example, I name the first one as C, which it stands for current, and then the another one I rename the duplicated view. I type N, which stands for no construction phase, and the last duplicated view I specify all, which shows all of the elements in all phases. Well done. But here we got a problem, which is that here I specify the phase filter, for example, show all by this way to display all of the elements. Then in C view, which stands for current, I associate it to complete, and then N and view, I specify the phase filter in which the new construction is displayed. I'm sorry, actually I made a mistake. I should have specified show previous phase and demolished elements or demolished phase to the current status. Then I assign show complete for N. Well done, let's check them out by this way. Right now the views are completed, and then here if I create a new sheet, for instance, I create 3 sheets because we got 3 views by this way. Then I use click and drag to display the 3D views on the sheets, and then I go for the next sheet and I move it by click and drag all of the elements, the current status and the new constructed elements by this way, click and drag. And now this process shows the practical purpose of phasing for displaying the different phases of the modeling process. That if you master in phasing of Revit, you can create new phases based on your needs, also developing the filters and so on. Just like design options in Revit. And meanwhile the scene is preserved. But guys, you may have some problems in specifying the colors and the patterns of your phase statuses in your view. For example, the new construction elements are not customized here. First of all, to solve the problem, we should check the filter, the phase filter, which is show all right now. Then I'm gonna open phases in manage tab. Before that, let me check the phase again, which is new construction. Then I open phases dialog. Note that here I should open phase filters, and then we should check the show all specified items. Here, as you can see in the first row, which is show all, new construction is specified by category. The displayment of the show all filter is by category. which it means that the original color or the original material which is associated to the element will be displayed in the view. Therefore, in the filter of show all, we are not allowed to specify color projection or lines since they are specified by their categories. Here, as you can see, at the column of new construction by categories is specified, while for existing, demolished and temporary, overridden is specified. But right now here, if I open graphic overrides, I can specify the color projection and cut of the 3 columns of existing, demolished and temporary, while the filter which is specified by the category is not editable. Is not editable graphically, while we can edit the overridden filters. And the rest of the filters, for example, show complete, show demo plus new, or show new, you can open the menu and then specify overridden. And after that, your specified colors or the projections will be associated to these. And if you wanted to hide them, you can choose not displayed. So right now, I specify overridden for all of them. Okay. Then the specified color projections will be applied on the elements, or the filters actually. From now on, I'm gonna give you some other informations about phasing and then finish the session. Note that when you are working with phasing in Revit, wait for a second please. In Manage tab, Phases, first of all, let me check the phase filters and the displayment options. As you can see, we're not allowed to modify show all filter, since at any condition, the new constructed elements in show all filter are displayed based on their categories, while the colors and the materials for existing, demolished and temporary filters are overridden. And if you want to adjust the graphic overrides, you can open graphic overrides tab, and then here we can specify the color projection, line patterns and the cut patterns. So you should take it into consideration that in show all filter, the new constructed elements are displayed by their categories. So your specified adjustments in graphic overrides would not be applied on them, since they are displayed by their categories. But in show complete filter, you are able to override the colors. Let me give you an example in 3D view. Here, if I specify show all for filter by this way to display all of the elements. Meanwhile, if I modify the graphic overrides, for example for the new construction, to display them in purple, both in cut and projection or surface. By this way, I modify their colors. As you can see, they are not changed, since they are displayed by their categories. Since in show all filter, the new constructed elements are displayed by their categories, as you can see. But if I modify the phase filter, for example to show complete, in which the new constructed elements are displayed, but the displayment of the show complete filter is editable, so we can open the menu and then specify overridden, so that they will follow your specified colors. Let's check it out. Look, they are changed, and it is simple. All of the filters displayment are editable except show all filter, because you can specify overridden for the different kind of phases, while if you specify by category, the origin color and the specified materials to your elements will be displayed on the view.